Hey there everyone, this is Jessica from domesticatedme.com. Welcome back to my channel. It feels good to be back. It feels very good to be back. Since many of you don't follow me on social media, I felt the need to make this video just to let you know what's been going on and why I've been missing from YouTube for a while and social media for a while. And basically a couple of weeks ago, my father was hospitalized with COVID-19. The reason why I decided to post about it publicly on social media is not only just to let you guys know where I've been, but because I think it's very important for people to remember that this virus is still very much a real thing. I've been talking about the effects of COVID-19 not only in general, but to my community specifically. I've mentioned that I am just 2 blocks away from the hospital that was called the epicenter of the epicenter. This hospital had long, huge lines of people who were sick and waiting to be seen to see if they had the virus, to be treated for the virus. And unfortunately, this was one of the hospitals that had those ice trucks parked outside because there was just so much volume of people. And I live 2 blocks away, but my mom lives half a block away. And so we quarantined. We didn't see each other physically for months. But because we were both quarantining, then we were able to see each other. I wasn't going out anywhere. I didn't even do walks. So for me, there was just no way of not seeing, of not being aware of what was happening. My community is still very much impacted by it. There's still people who are waiting in lines for food because they may not qualify for government help. There is not much funding happening anyway from the government. So anyway, I was fully aware of the impact and very careful, and I just, not only on social media was I telling people that, wear a mask, social distance, all of the precautions that you need to take, everything that the CDC and health professionals and the scientists, to follow science, to follow what the medical experts have been saying. So this was something that I not only spoke about on social media, but also to my friends, to my family. So what happened? What happened is that fortunately my mom is basically under my care. She listens to me. We have a very close relationship. My father lives just a few blocks from me, and he would be careful, what he considered to be careful, but I knew that he was maybe going out more and participating in activities that I didn't think were essential, that were very important, but still he managed to not get infected all of these months. So how he was infected was that he was visited by a relative that traveled from another state, and actually he traveled across 3 states in the time that he was COVID positive and unaware that he was. He was sick. He felt like he had a cold, but he swore that it was just a cold. And unbeknownst to me, he visited my father, and he actually stayed in my father's house. My father has a multi-family house, so he was able to stay in his own space, but still they had dinner together in my dad's apartment. This relative was traveling abroad, so they together went out and got things that he needed for his trip. This relative, again, unbeknownst to me, actually visited friends in another state, in New Jersey, and again, came back to my father's home here in New York, and my father trusted that they were being careful, and unfortunately they were both wrong. That relative was COVID-19 positive. He had the virus and he infected my father. Now, again, let me just stop here and just reiterate that the reason why I'm sharing this is because I want people to be careful. I don't want people to go through what so many others have gone through. And I just want to share information. If you are going through this, then I want to be able to commiserate with you. But if you have never been affected by it, I want you to be aware of what happens and how it happens. And I hope that this video can be helpful. So while this relative was staying with him, a family friend encouraged my father to have that relative get tested. And they did get tested. They did not wait for the results and flew abroad. And about a day after, the results came back positive. So that family friend then encouraged my father to get tested to make sure that he was okay, and he did get tested, and unfortunately his results also came back positive. So my father kind of just quarantined for a few days, and then he started feeling the effects. He started at first feeling tired, sluggish, and then had lots of body aches. And this is about a week after he was actually infected, or a week or so after he was infected. As we all know, sometimes it could take up to 2 weeks to feel symptoms. So the first couple of days was just that, feeling tired and achy. And then Friday into a Saturday, he could not sleep because he was having trouble breathing. And I don't know. And even though he had trouble breathing to the point where he could not sleep and he had to sit up for the entire night, he still did not want to, number one, let me know what was happening, but he also didn't want to go to the hospital or see a doctor. He just kind of wanted to wait around. I think during that period also he got a prescription from a doctor for like antibiotics or something like that. But thankfully, that family friend reached out to me and talked to him and said, there's no way I'm not telling your daughter. She needs to know. This is serious. And so she let me know. I called him and he was out of breath. That whole conversation we had, he was just out of breath, and I knew that there was something wrong. I immediately reached out to my friends. As some of you know, I worked in New York State and city government, and I reached out to them to ask what I should be doing, and they thankfully just were amazing, told me to head to the hospital that's closest to me. And because that was the epicenter of the epicenter, I think it is one of the best hospitals. My father is actually super lucky to live near this hospital because they had so many cases. They've dealt with so many cases. They've seen so many patients infected with coronavirus that I feel like they just are experts in it. And know way more than other places might that are just encountering it for the first time or have only had a handful of cases. They just know it. Know it better than most hospitals. So he's very fortunate to live close to it. So Saturday afternoon, he was admitted to the hospital. He was given oxygen through a mask, and by Sunday evening, he was intubated, sedated, basically put in a medically induced coma on a ventilator. So for those of you who don't know what the treatment is like, they basically give them antibiotics, they give them steroids, they give them, I forgot one of the names of the medications that they give them, and I'll include it down in the description down below. But basically, they give him oxygen to stabilize him. At one point in the beginning, the machine was breathing for him. 100% of his oxygen was coming from the ventilator. They do proning as a major treatment, and although, you would think that you need, incredible cocktail of medication to deal with it, and you absolutely do, but one of a great way to treat coronavirus or to help a person through it is to what they call proning them, and that means that you lie on your stomach. And so that allows your lungs to expand to get oxygen all the way in the back of your lungs, because if you think about it, there's more lung space from the back because there's not other things obstructing them, as opposed to your chest where you have other organs and your breastplate and all that. So on the back, if you are on your stomach, then when you breathe, your lungs can expand even more, and that just helps. Obviously, this is a respiratory thing. So when my father was awake, he was proning on his own, but it was so difficult for him to breathe that he could only do it about 30 minutes at a time. And when he was sedated and paralyzed, they could put him on a stomach all night long, and it wouldn't be uncomfortable for him. And so that's what they did. And thankfully, with the cocktail of medications that they have been giving him, with the antibiotics, with the steroids, with the proning and the ventilators, he thankfully today is doing better. Right now, actually, he is in a trial period. They've removed the ventilators and have him on oxygen, but through tubes that go up his nose, and they are not at the moment giving him sedation medication. So he is aware, he is up, he is awake. He's very weak and tired, so he's mostly sleeping. He's not really like alert, but they haven't been giving him the sedation medication. They're monitoring him right now. Sometimes patients can get, after being pulled off the ventilator, they can get worse and have to get intubated again. So they're just monitoring. Hopefully he can withstand being on just the aid of the breathing tubes up his nose, and he's able to start breathing on his own completely and well, because once that happens and once all the fluid is out of his lungs, then he can at least move out of the ICU, and then I can actually see him. Hopefully, if New York stays under a certain positivity rate, these visitation allowances will continue to happen at that hospital, and I'll be able to see him. And that's what we are hoping for. But we are very hopeful. We are very thankful. And that's an update on my dad. That is how my father was infected with COVID-19, and that was the treatment that they're giving him now. Again, I'm going to say this over and over again. The reason why I'm doing this is not to get sympathy, although I'm so thankful for the outpouring of love and support that I've had from friends, from families, from my followers, from my subscribers, from strangers who just saw my story and felt compelled to reach out to me and to say that they were praying for my father. Like, I'm so appreciative. And but the reason why I'm sharing this is because it's still very much a real thing. It's still happening. It's still incredibly dangerous. I know someone who was infected with COVID back in March, and he still cannot breathe well. He still is out of breath constantly, and we're in November. So just because you're seeing how many people make it through, survive, that does not tell you the state that they're in after they survive. Yes, they're alive, and that's amazing and that's great, but the effects that this virus can have on someone's body, the deterioration that it can cause, the damage it can cause to your body, you don't know that. We don't know that. So it's not something to play with. It's not something to be, it's just a terrible disease. It's terrible. But again, I'm very thankful for everyone's support. I'm so thankful for the amazing staff and team at the hospital. They've been amazing, super communicative, explaining things clearly for me, and we're hopeful, and he's hopefully continues on the right path so that we can get him home. I want you to keep this story in mind as we end 2020 and as we start thinking about holidays and how we want to spend them. People have different understandings of what being careful is. I have a certain idea of what my being careful means. My father had a different idea of what being careful means. I'm sure that relative thought that they were being careful too. It doesn't matter how careful we want to be and we wish to be and how strong we think we are. It doesn't stop you from getting infected, whether with symptoms or if you're asymptomatic. It doesn't stop the opportunity of spreading that. And so as we wrap up 2020, just think about what's worth it. I know that for me, skipping a few holidays, I would rather skip a few holidays and know that I have the opportunity of spending many, many more holidays and many years more of holidays with my loved ones than just because I'm tired and I want to see my family. And I get it. I understand. We're all tired of this. No one, is thriving right now. But I know what I'm willing to give up temporarily for the big picture, for the future. So anyway, that's my story. That's where I've been. That's what I've been dealing with. Again, thank you guys so much. Hopefully this video not only gives you an understanding of what I've been dealing with, but also gives you a little more insight as to how someone can be affected infected and also affected the people around them, how they're affected, but treatment, because I know that a lot of people don't know what happens in the process and the treatments. So hopefully that gives you a little insight, and just thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support and love. And I have a lot of videos that I need to get through. Thankfully, I love what I do, and it's nice to have other things to focus on right now. Not necessarily as a distraction, but it's nice to get out of my head, and just have a moment to be busy and do things that I really love and enjoy. So again, thank you for all your support, and I have a lot more videos coming your way, so stay tuned.